Scenario, I want you to have a mattress ready to pull it over your head. I think most folks are not going to have to deal with that. It's going to be very rare, very isolated, but these tornadoes are strong tornadoes located in this band right here. And look at all the tornado warnings that we have. There's a tornado warning for Wauchula. There's also a tornado warning in Highlands County. There are 2 tornado warnings right now in Polk County. You can even, as you look at that radar, you can see the spin of the tornado making its way to the north, and pretty soon that'll be close to I-4. Now, this northern part of the storm has the heaviest rain, but we're going to concentrate, at least for a little while, and Rebecca's going to help me with this. We're going to concentrate on where these individual tornadoes are. And one thing I should say, there's already flooding ongoing along the immediate coast here, places like Sarasota. Venice has already seen about 5 inches of rain right here. But what I do want to show you is the velocity scans. And typically, and if you watch me do tornado coverage, or Rebecca, you'll notice pretty often we barely can see the tornadoes. These are as clear as day, which leads me to believe that the winds in some of these tornadoes are probably likely somewhere around 120 plus miles an hour. So right there on the east side of Lake Wales, that is 60. On the way to Yeehaw Junction, this is now past over 60, and it's moving northwest. It's not moving straight north. So get ready in Haines City and in Davenport and on the east side of Dundee. This tornado is likely going to be headed your way on the east side. Eventually, it will probably cross over I-4. Again, that's a powerful circulation. Look at the blues. Look at the reds. That right there is where the tornado is located. All right, let's check out some other tornadoes for you because, again, we're going to be getting these tornado warnings on and off throughout the afternoon, and we're going to show you them. We're going to tell you about them. We're going to tell you the cities that are impacted. We're going to ask you to get inside your safe place, and then we're going to move on to the other tornadoes across the area. This one does not look as strong. It was stronger before. This is headed towards Fort Meade. It very well could still be a tornado, so if you're in Fort Meade, get to your safe space because that tornado is going to be heading your way. All right, zooming out a little bit more, this is a bigger tornado. This right now is in DeSoto County. It's about to cross over into Hardy County. It looks like there are likely 2 tornadoes here, one right along 17, one on the east side of 17. This is going to be headed north. Again, they're north of Arcadia right now, so in Arcadia, it looks like the worst has passed for you, but pretty soon, these circulations, look at that right there, right at the end there. Look at all, if you look really closely, you can see the pinks, very close to the greens. Those are really strong winds. And these are headed across into Hardy County towards Wauchula. If you're in Wauchula, you have a couple of minutes. But when you see that the weather is really starting to go downhill, get to your safe place because that tornado is going to be heading your way. Okay, let's show you the latest on Milton. As of 2 p.m., winds are now down to 130 miles an hour. So it's a borderline Cat 4, almost Cat 3. It is behaving exactly the way we thought it would. It was a Cat 5 earlier today. Now it's a Cat 4. And I would say within the next few hours, it will be a Cat 3. It's undergoing what is an extratropical transition. Why is that important? It's important because the jet stream is lifting it to the north, but it's also imparting energy to it. Now, because the jet stream is imparting energy to this system, that's why these tornadoes are strong. That's why they're not just run-of-the-mill EF0s or EF1s. Some of them may be EF2s, and that's because the jet stream is involved. You have the energy from the hurricane, the energy from the jet stream. And what's going to happen also is because the energy from the jet stream is infusing into this storm, it's not going to allow the storm to weaken very fast from here. So it'll come on shore as a Cat 3, but it will remain a 2 as it moves across Hardy, DeSoto, Highlands, Polk County. That's likely where the eye is going to go, right about here. And even when it gets to the east coast around Cape Canaveral, it is likely to be, I think, a Cat 1 hurricane. And again, because the jet stream is aiding and abetting it, it is going to have the chance to stay stronger for a longer period of time. And that means if you're inland, what does that mean to you in Polk County, Hardy, DeSoto, Highlands County, eastern Manatee County? It means that you should expect hurricane force wind gusts probably to 100 miles an hour. And if you're along the coast, starting at around 5 or 6 o'clock, you're going to start to see those hurricane force wind gusts. Probably 6 to 7 o'clock, that's when your winds are sustained at hurricane force, and you're starting to see those gusts to about 110, 120 miles an hour. You should prepare for that possibility. That means it's going to get scary. Most homes should be able to survive those winds. These are not winds like Hurricane Michael or Hurricane Andrew where they come in and they bulldoze homes. These are not those type of winds, but they can compromise your roof. Trees will fall. So again, be very, very careful as the meat of this storm moves in. It is not the kind of storm like Andrew. Again, I'm just reiterating it because I don't want to scare anyone, but it can compromise roofs and it can cause some structural damage. All right, so it turns into a Cat 1 and it moves out by tomorrow morning. So our conditions will be improving a lot by tomorrow morning, and that's because it's moving faster than it was before. Zooming in just a little bit, you'll see where the center of the track is right there, still exactly where it was last night. And right now, it seems to be on track, moving in the exact direction that we thought it would be moving. So that would mean landfall somewhere around Sarasota, give or take. But remember, at the last minute, just a 20-minute wobble puts it on the south side of Tampa Bay. But one thing I do want to mention, and then I'm going to toss it over to Rebecca Berry, because Rebecca Berry, I'm sure, has some information on the system right now. But one thing I want to mention is that it's going to be hard for this system at this point to make landfall in Pinellas County. It could still happen, but in the next hour or two, it won't be able to happen anymore. And that's important because a worst case scenario for Tampa Bay is the storm comes on shore right about there and it starts pushing that water into the bay. If the storm were to actually make landfall around the Sunshine Skyway, it would not be able to push all that water in. Sure, the storm surge would be worse, but it wouldn't be nearly as bad as if it moves on shore in places like Pinellas County, St. Pete Beach, Madeira Beach. So right now, it's looking like the worst surge, Bradenton down to Sarasota. And look at that swath of really strong wind gusts. These are 110-mile-an-hour wind gusts and possibly higher. Clearwater all the way down through St. Petersburg, straight across downtown Tampa. The worst of the winds, Bradenton, Sarasota, Venice. I expect some wind gusts to 120 miles an hour. And even in places like Lakeland, Bartow, and Wauchula, we are looking at the possibility of a couple of wind gusts over 100, 110 miles an hour. So you can imagine there'll be a lot of trees down, and we're going to see significant power outages. All right, with that said, let's bring in meteorologist Rebecca Berry. And, you know, we were talking about before. You've been covering hurricanes a long time. You've been in Florida a long time. Have you seen a hurricane produce such strong signatures on radar before?
Not really since Charlie. Charlie was the last one that we had that just was very tornadic, and it was very strong signatures. I mean, we just got this new one, so I wanted to bring this to your attention down near Lake Placid. And when the box is blinking like that, that means it's confirmed. And so this is a tornado on the ground. So what this tool does is it lets us see the rotation on the radar. Sometimes that rotation doesn't make it all the way down into a tornado. And the National Weather Service sends out teams once the weather's cleared to determine if it was a tornado or not. But when they see it on the ground or a storm spotter spots it, that's when they issue that it's a confirmed tornado. And that's what's going on through Lake Placid right now. If it holds together, it may end up impacting Sebring. So make sure you're staying weather aware and have a way to get your warnings. And so what we're looking at right now is, of course, mainly inland tornadoes. And as the back half of the storm starts to move on the southern portions, that's when we could see the potential for some tornadoes in our coastal counties. And so we're keeping an eye on the wobble tracker because that turn to the east told us that we are looking at that potential more southern landfall, and that does not include the surge in the bay. And so that's what we're watching on wobble tracker right now to see if it's following the forecasted track. This is the past track, and this is the current position. And so this is what we're watching with the wobble tracker. You can see it moving, taking that jog to the east, making that turn instead of continuing to move straight, which would have been potentially a more clear water landfall if it had continued just due straight from where it was. And so what we're going to do right now is check out some of our tower cameras, because we will start to lose these as the sites lose power, as we lose internet once the winds get a little bit higher. But this is how it looks out over the Veterans Expressway right now from our Veterans Forward camera. Marina Point starting to get a little bit rocky. So this is looking at the Gandy Bridge right there, and you can't even see the Gandy Bridge. So rainfall rates and the wind, all a problem. Our sensors don't operate very well at high wind levels here, just the way that they're built. And so it is much, much more than 10 or 15 miles per hour there. When you're looking the other direction, this is Bayshore Boulevard. You can see that wind-blown rain, but no flooding there yet on Bayshore Boulevard. This is a flooding spot. It's a hot spot that we see when we see some heavy rainfall. So that may occur during some of those heavier rain bands. This is looking out over our microlumen camera, getting pretty shaky looking over downtown Tampa right there. Now, our rainfall gauges are pretty good. It doesn't account for rain when it's very windy. It doesn't give a good reading because a lot of that rain doesn't make it down into the rainfall sensor. But in general, we've already seen 2 to 3 inches of rain area wide. You can see how heavily it's raining in Riverview right now. And then let's go ahead and check out Lakewood Ranch, looking pretty breezy. Look at those palm trees right there. But it unfortunately does look like it's going to be picking up a lot over the course of the afternoon hours. In Polk County, things things shaping up a little on the soggy side as well. Checking out St. Pete on our California closets camera. Things you can't even really see downtown. And our Sarasota camera will be a really interesting one to watch because it is a little bit inland, and so it does have the chance to keep power a little bit longer than coastal Sarasota does. Newport Richey, things starting to get very windy and rainy there as well, as you might expect. And so what we're looking at right now, we've made it through our camera, so let's move on. I'll give you an impact overview, excuse me. So from the eye walls, the southern edge of the eye wall south, that's where we'll see the worst damage, 10 to 15-foot storm surge. We're going to see strong hurricane force wind gusts over most of our counties to the south of I-4, 100 miles per hour plus. But the rainfall flooding is going to be a different story. We're going to see some very heavy rainfall from this point forward. We've already seen over 2 inches, and that's going to be mainly to the north of the eye wall. So those are the most concerning impacts that we're looking at. And after that, we're looking at widespread power outages. So we'll be tracking those all afternoon long as well.
All right, thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Jeff. A lot to take in. Just so much happening, and it's happening. It seems to be at a faster pace than we expected. Hurricane Milton, as Rebecca just pointed out there, threatening to bring catastrophic storm surge to Sarasota and Manatee counties.
Our News Channel 8's Brittany Muller is live at the Emergency Operations Center in Bradenton. And Brittany, that's an area that really needs to be paying close attention to the storm, and where we had talked about it possibly coming ashore around 2 a.m. in the middle of the night, it's now moved up to 7 to 8 p.m.
Right, and that's why residents out here in Manatee County need to remain vigilant right now and listen to local law officials at this time. We just heard from Jody Fish. She's the public safety director here in Manatee County, and she says wherever you are right now is where you'll be riding out the storm. We're in a lull right now, so don't be deceived. We are experiencing some wind, but earlier on we saw those rain bands and lightning and thunder, and so it just keeps coming and coming and coming. So I want to let you know that EMS and fire rescue crews are no longer responding to the barrier islands here in Manatee County. Bridges are closed. That's including the Skyway. We also know in preparation for Hurricane Milton, the county says haulers have been working around the clock. They've removed more than 10 million pounds of debris from Manatee County. That's because we saw those impacts from Hurricane Helene. They're still recovering from that here in Manatee County. This is an area that's been devastated, and we've been reporting on it since Helene swept through this area, and debris is still out here. Although the county had been working on those operations of removing that debris, they had to stop that for right now because we're feeling those impacts out here. We also know Lake Manatee Dam has been lowered to 36 feet. That's a question that viewers have been asking us at this time. We also know Manatee County has a hotline. It's called Manatee 311. Those workers have been fielding more than 5,000 calls, answering questions about sandbags, shelters, everything that you can imagine. So we're out here. We're trying to provide all the information that viewers are asking us right now. We're remaining safe as well. That's another question that everyone has. And we'll be out here providing the latest information here in Manatee County. For now, reporting live, Brittany Muller, 8 on your side.
Thanks, Brittany. And team coverage continues right now as we continue to track this massive Hurricane Milton.
News Channel 8's Kenny Morales joining us live from Bay Pines in the community there in Pinellas County. Kenny, what are you seeing?
Hey guys, yeah, so like I mentioned it, I just want to set the scene a little bit. We are just outside of Bay Pines. We're actually on the other side of that bridge that kind of goes over Boca Ciega Bay, right? And real quick, I just want to turn in here. Thankfully, it looks like most people have heeded those evacuation orders. Haven't seen too many cars out here other than, you know, 1 or 2 here or there. But the conditions are starting to worsen. It kind of slaps you in the face in bands, right? You start out, it goes, oh, okay, some little light rain. It's not too bad. 5 minutes later, we had sideways rain. You know, winds were picking up like crazy. You can see here the storm surge starting to pick up along Boca Ciega Bay. And we were about to pull up here into Harbor Lights Mobile Home Park. Obviously, evacuation orders for A, B, C, and all mobile home parks here in Pinellas County. Not only dealing with storm surge issues, but you're obviously going to have wind damage. And then we pulled up and we saw this. And this is kind of the other thing we've been talking about, right? Because of Hurricane Helene and all the efforts that have been made lately to try and pick up the damage that's been left by that hurricane, you're left with sites like this. Just a gigantic debris left over by Helene. And look, there's only so much manpower we have, right? That hurricane hit just a week or 2 ago. But unfortunately, this is still here. And with those hurricane winds, you're going to see those become projectiles. And then you have a mobile home park right next to that, and you know, apartments around the area. Very, very dangerous scene. So thankfully, we actually drove through that mobile home park about 5 or 10 minutes ago. Didn't see anybody out there other than there was one gentleman who was unfortunately.
All right, Kenny Morales driving around there in Bay Pines, and boy, that field of debris is just so obvious that these are the projectiles that everybody's worried about when the winds come. And he's already feeling the bands. We experienced that. But as we continue our coverage in Pinellas County now, we move on to our next reporter.
And Marilyn Parker joins us. She is just outside of Pinellas County where the rain's coming down pretty steadily. Marilyn, tell us what you're seeing there.
The rain is steady, just like you said, and that wind is picking up. Right now, we're right about in Largo. We're not far from the intersection of 113th Street and Ridge Road. That is further down there. Not a lot of traffic on the roads, which tells us, again, that people are heeding the directions to get out of the area. This is not a storm that you want to take any chances with. And again, we've been emphasizing how much rain we're going to see with this storm. This area knows that rain showers alone can produce a lot of flooding. We've seen a lot of trouble even before Hurricane Helene. We remembered having a lot of the flooding in our different areas, especially throughout South St. Petersburg. So that's something that officials want you to keep in mind. Also, the ground has been wet. We're expecting high wind speeds, and so the chance for trees to fall and light poles, that increases as well. St. Pete City officials wanted to make sure that people understood that this is something that you want to go ahead and leave the area if you still can, while you still can. The hours are definitely winding down as that storm, Hurricane Milton, approaches us. And so what you want to do is evacuate as soon as possible or get to a safe place. There are multiple shelters that are still available throughout the area. We have that information on WFLA.com. As you can see, the wind is picking up right now. It's very, very strong, and it's only going to get stronger. Again, a lot of people have evacuated from this area, but we do see some folks still out on the road. You just want to make sure that you're making the right decisions right now because, again, once the storm come in, officials say that a lot of their law enforcement and first responders cannot get out into you until the storm passes. That's important for you to keep in mind when it comes to your family's safety. We're going to continue to keep you updated here live in Pinellas County. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Marilyn. And we have Jeff and Rebecca joining us now. We're kind of the new crew that came in at 2, and I'd like to set the table for people maybe just tuning in. We were surprised that's how some things had sped up with the storm. So if you could talk a little bit about our northern counties, of course, Sarasota, where things are expected to be probably the worst, and south of there.
So everything has sped up. Looks like landfall is going to be maybe 7 p.m. or so, give or take. But the eye wall, Rebecca, of course, is going to move on shore like 5. You know, the northern part of the storm, a lot of rain. I mean, rain for 12 hours at 1 to 2 inches an hour. So some places will get 18 inches of rain. So if you don't think you're going to get flooding in your home because you're not going to get storm surge, there's a chance you could get it from rain. So elevate your valuables if you're going to be north of this storm. But the good news is it's becoming a lot less likely, Rebecca, right, that this storm gets far enough north in Tampa Bay so that it could push a worst-case scenario surge in.
Exactly. So about 3 or 4 days out, the uncertainty is so high with these storms. Are you going to be the one that gets the surge, or are you going to be the one that gets the wind? And we're starting to be able to narrow the field because we're getting closer to landfall. The wobble tracker showing that storm did make that turn east as expected, and that does indicate the south of the bay landfall, which takes surge out of the bay. And so now we're looking at the potential for tornado damage. We're looking at wind damage, and then rainfall flooding to the north of the eye, to the south of the eyes, where we're mainly going to see that 10 to 15 foot storm surge. So Sarasota all the way down to Venice. I'm worried about Port Charlotte, worried about Mount Lachey, those areas.
And these tornadoes, I mean, they can pop up anywhere. We started seeing them even almost deep into Highlands County, and then they kind of moved our way. We've seen some in Polk County.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to keep track of all of these. Are we concerned that that might actually move into the northern parts of like Hillsborough and Pasco and those areas?
It could rotate around. We typically see areas, certain bands tend to be a little bit more tornadic because of the way that they're moving across the land and interacting with the friction there. And so we could start to see that. But for right now, it does look like it's a little bit more inland, Polk County, Highlands County, Hardy, DeSoto.
But Jeff, we all have to be ready for tornadoes. And like I said before, these are strong. These are not your grandmother's tornadoes. And I say that because
These aren't water spouts.
We get a lot of tornadoes and hurricanes here, and I've never seen circulations as strong as this. These are probably EF2 tornadoes, so these are you have to take seriously. The tornadoes we usually get in hurricanes, you wouldn't even know they were there because you already have the hurricane wind, right? these are going to be stronger than that.
So, Jeff, you were talking right when you came on about how this is behaving as expected.
That's right.
But this is a path we don't see typically come straight across the Gulf.
Sure.
And you've got a trough up that's pushing it down. I'm not the meteorologist.
Yes, it's a jet stream that's diving south. It's doing some interesting stuff right now. You probably noticed that the north end of the storm now has all the thunderstorms. The southern doesn't. We talked about that. It's going through an extra tropical transition, which means that it's going to take longer for it to weaken. It'll weaken to, it's already a borderline Cat 3, Cat 4 right now. It'll be a Cat 3 at landfall, just like we expected. But because now the energy from the jet stream is entering the picture, the tornadoes are stronger because the jet stream's adding that extra wind aloft. And it also is imparting energy to the storm so that it doesn't weaken as much as it moves across. So usually a storm during the middle of the summer that hits Sarasota County, by the time it gets to, Polk County, the winds would be much weaker. It's going to take longer for these winds to weaken because the jet stream has entered the picture. And
it's going to be a long process. We're in it. I mean, we talk about the eye, but I mean, basically, I mean, Milton has arrived for the most part. Yep. The outer bands, they're here.
Yeah, I was just checking, and we've already got sustained winds above 45 miles per hour in St. Pete, so I'd imagine the skyway's closed and the other bridges are right behind that.
Yeah. So where a surge may not be the biggest concern in Tampa Bay, we are still going to see all those other effects. Like you said, the rain piling up, the high winds.
That's right.
All the things that don't take your foot off the pedal if you're...
Yeah, I mean, I think, we often talk about surge so often, but over the past 10 years, inland flooding has surpassed surge for fatalities, because I think we focused so much on communication of surge, but we saw what happened in North Carolina with Helene. Flooding is becoming a bigger problem lately. Storms have more water than they used to, and they're defying logic in the amount of rain that they're producing. So don't poo-poo. I'm just going to get heavy rain. It could be really heavy rain, and it could end up in your home.
Yeah, a lot to take in here. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to have you guys come back, but we also have crews stationed elsewhere we want to touch base with. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Universal Roof and Contracting.
When it comes to roofing in Florida, the difference is universal. At Universal Roof and Contracting,
ongoing thing all day, all evening, but now that landfall is expected to be significantly earlier than expected, possibly around 7 or 8 o'clock tonight.
Mayor Ken Welch over in Pinellas County worried about some of the cranes. We have so much going on, the building in the Bay Area. Liddy Supal has this report from Pinellas.
Tropicana Field has been transformed into a temporary housing shelter for first responders. More than 10,000 cots line the field inside the stadium, but as the wind gusts continue to pick up, all eyes will be on the skyline, specifically the cranes that tower over the city. This has been a specific concern for Mayor Ken Welch. He says that it takes a specialized crew up to 1 week to disassemble the cranes. So now these hurricane force winds could topple those cranes, causing catastrophic damage. He is encouraging residents who live nearby to relocate or find a safe interior room inside their house. We will continue to monitor this situation and keep you updated with conditions. Reporting from downtown St. Pete, Lenny Sue Paul, 8 on your side.
And one big concern right now that will remain a concern is tornadoes.
Yeah.
We have one that formed down in South Florida today, if we can take a peek at that. These tornadoes are forming as Hurricane Milton, still a long way from the state, but as Jeff was saying earlier, these are going to be strong tornadoes.
Yeah, that's the tornado in South Florida. And we have some video from David McLaughlin. This showing flooding in Northport, a neighborhood there. You can already see the water starting to rise in this area. So there's more to come. And don't forget, if the power goes out, and it will, and you can't watch us on television, you can always still tune in to us on radio. We have several partners out there, several stations in the Bay Area working with us to keep you informed. You can find them, and they're right there on your screen. So check those out if need be. In the meantime, let's get back to our Chief Meteorologist, Jeff Baradelli. What are you seeing now, Jeff? What's changing?
Yeah, so we have new tornado warnings that are in effect for the area right now. So we're going to take you for a look at some of these tornadoes. But, you know, I can tell by looking at them, they are pretty strong. So let's do that. First of all, where you see the purple boxes flashing, these are confirmed tornadoes. So someone has seen the tornado. There is, in fact, a tornado on the ground. That's what the purple flashing mean. The rest of these may very well have tornadoes on the ground, but they haven't been confirmed by the National Weather Service yet. You can see that there's one right here in Polk County, so I think we should concentrate on that one. And there's the center of the storm, by the way. You can actually see that right there? That is the eye of the storm with the strongest winds. It's still far enough offshore, so we don't have to worry about that right now. That eye wall will reach us by 5 or 6 o'clock, and then the eye will cross after that. All right, so let's go in and talk about some of these tornadoes. This one right here is located in eastern Polk County, as you can see, and it's headed towards I-4. It just left Lake Wales. This was the tornado we were talking about before that was on the east side of Lake Wales, and now it's spinning around to the northwest. This is on the east side of Winter Haven as we speak, and the next stop for this is likely to be Polk City. This is a fairly broad circulation, but given the tornadoes that we've already seen, I suspect that this will end up producing a tornado. So if you're in Poynter, Eva, Barry, Withla, or Rock Ridge, within the next 15 minutes or so, this is moving your way. Get to your safe place, which again is away from windows in an interior portion of your home. That's the circulation right there. It's basically right on top of Haines City on the south side of town, right along 27. And it looks like it's going to move right there across that way. Although Davenport, if you're in Davenport, it's a little too close for comfort for you right now. And you can see Dundee, the circulation is now past you. This is headed northwest, so it's headed towards Lake Alfred. So if you're anywhere in this Lake Alfred, Haines City, and Davenport, take cover, get inside until the tornado warning expires for you. All right, zooming out a little bit more, I want to show you a couple other tornadoes. This one is in Sebring, looks to be the strongest that we have right now, and there's another one right there approaching Wauchula. So let's do Sebring first. Just to show you a kind of a wide view, there's two tornadoes on the ground. This one is headed into Sebring. Get inside your safe room immediately. Take cover, get away from windows, interior portion of your home, bathroom.